Hello everyone, welcome to Now You're Playing with Power, a Nintendo podcast now, not only on YouTube, but also on iTunes and other notable places on the internet where you can download us. Yes, it's finally happened. I have figured it out. I have been taught by the great Garnet Lee how to put my audio...
I thought I was the IT whiz.
Well, you know, I mean, we reserve that for only special times. Yeah, we've managed to get the show on iTunes, which is fantastic. I've updated the feed, so every single episode is now available there. And for your convenience, if you want to download it there, I will leave a link in the description of the YouTube video, and you should be able to find us. I'm hoping that by the time this episode goes up, our iTunes feed will have appeared. It currently hasn't right yet. It's going through submission. It usually takes a few days to do that, but it should be up and ready to go for the most part. So excellent stuff, and I hope, a lot of people have been asking for it. I hope you guys enjoy that and have an alternative way of listening to it. I certainly know that Bali and I both use the service greatly. So
and we'll still be on YouTube, right?
Yeah, we're not going to go anywhere on YouTube. YouTube will be still a place where we post the video version. If that's your preferred method of watching or listening, whatever, then that's good. So there you go. Yeah.
Go review us on iTunes.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't believe I'm saying that.
Right, we'll probably mention that at the end of the show as well, just to remind everyone to go over to iTunes and give us a nice review, because that really helps. It pushes us up the search rankings, and it means more people download us, and we can reach a wider audience, which is fantastic. And that's exactly what we'd like to do. So, anyway, I haven't introduced Bali yet. So, hi, Bali. How are you doing?
Oh, yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. How's it going?
That was some random guy speaking before. It wasn't me. I just turned up. I'm good. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Excellent. All right, fantastic. So yeah, we've got a show here today. I think what we're going to do is a double helping of listener mail, since we skipped out on it last time. They've been piling up. We've got quite a few to go through, so we're going to tackle those. But first of all, we are, of course, going to do our usual what we have been playing. And Bali, I think this week you can kick it off and tell us what you've been dabbling with the past couple of weeks.
So I've been playing a couple of games, mainly. I probably played them about the same amount as well, which is a bit weird. I've not actually played my new purchase much, to be honest, which I don't know why, but I don't get me wrong, I'm enjoying it. And that purchase is Need for Speed Most Wanted U, which I don't think that the letter U fitting on the end of Most Wanted works very well. It kind of sounds like
it doesn't.
You're the most wanted you. Like, I don't get it, but
well, I mean, how else are they going to brand it, right?
Most Wanted Wii U?
Who knows?
Anyway, it's their Nintendo version. They should just call it Nintendo version.
Yeah.
But don't be fooled by the name, because they actually up-resed the graphics apparently from the Xbox 360 and PS3 versions, and actually used the graphics engine or something.
I think it's more the textures from the PC version.
Something like that. You know what I'm trying to say. The textures from the PC version.
Bali's now saying words which he understands nothing about, but yeah.
Pixels, megabytes, gigapixels. It's got better gigapixels, okay? Just move on. Right. And basically, this is the first... I'm quite a big driving game fan.
You're a pretty huge driving game fan, I would say.
Huge. I've not played enough to be a huge driving game fan.
No, but it's one of those genres that you really get into, whereas I don't.
True. So the last driving game I played, I owned, that's like a proper, well, it's not even proper, it's quite arcadey, very arcadey as well, was Burnout 2, and that was on the GameCube. So 10 years later, Criterion Games decide to release another game on a Nintendo console with literally nothing in between, and that is Need for Speed Most Wanted U. And first impressions, it's a solid driving game. Now, the problem is that I'm open... That's the thing, is I've not played a driving game in ages, so this game could have been a pile of rubbish and I would probably still like it, and that's because I've not got a whole lot to compare it to. and it would have to have been doing a lot of stuff wrong to not be better than a game that was out 10 years ago. So from that perspective, maybe I'm being a bit harsh on it, but I am really liking it, and it's a really, really weird late format. So rather than having these sort of menus that don't relate to the action, it's all in an in-game menu bar basically.
Mm.
And within this menu bar, you can look up maps, races, um, customize your vehicles,
Customized.
and yeah, so it's just quite weird that you never actually go out of this mode. And then I should say, in this mode, you're basically driving around the city. I can't remember the name of the city, but it's this fictional city, and you drive around it all.
So it's basically a full open world that you can explore.
Yeah, it's an open world driving game, and you can choose to get teleported to the race, or you can just tell it to mark out on your map where it is and drive to it, which is quite nice.
So do you prefer doing that? Do you prefer like kind of exploring the world and getting a sense of your surroundings and understanding where places are in relation to one another by driving from race to race? Or are you more kind of get straight to the action and teleport straight there?
You see, I'm of the ilk, I would say, that I just like getting there and getting involved in the race. But I understand why they did it the way they did, and that was what you were hinting at just a second ago, and that is that it does familiarize yourself with the surroundings, and that's not beneficial necessarily just in terms of racing, but in terms of this other mode, which is quite crucial to the game, and hence the name, is when the police are chasing you. I can't even remember what the name of this mode is, but basically the aim is that you escape the cops as quickly as possible. And having a knowledge of your surroundings when those missions occur is crucial, because the world, rather than, so if you're in a race, you have to go on the race route, obviously, to win. Whereas when you're in like this, doing a cop, I can't remember what these missions are called, but the cops are chasing you. Whenever you're in one of those missions, the map just goes free, and it's basically you have to escape the cops as quickly as possible.
Right, so having a familiarity with the world helps you so you know all the shortcuts and you
Yes.
can avoid them by doing that. Yeah, that makes sense.
And it's
Okay.
not even shortcuts and outspeeding the cops. It's like driving down an alley and just sitting there, and they just drive past you, and
Oh,
then
that's so
you've
cool.
evaded
That's
them.
such like a movie thing.
Yeah, like apparently you can do it. I've not managed to do it yet, and I actually am not a huge fan of the cop parts. Partly because I'm really bad at them, and partly because I just prefer racing so much more. Um, but there's this one mission I'm currently doing. It's really pissing me off, that where I need to do it in under like 2.5 minutes, and I just can't break that time. And if I break that time, I get this great unlock because it gives me like special gearbox or something that makes me faster and better and bigger, stronger, better, faster. So yeah.
So, have you tried the online yet for this game and all the kind of multiplayer emergent things that go on?
I haven't actually, and that's really something I should have done before talking about this game. But I need to give it a go. I've probably only played about 3 hours maybe, and in that time, I've sort of been hitting my head against a wall trying to redo missions I was struggling on rather than trying to do other missions. So I've only seen a very, very small amount of the game. For example, like I've one thing I would say is that it's quite overwhelming at the start in terms of the number of cars you get. So basically, you unlock. I think you genuinely unlock all the cars in the game, but they're like specs aren't that great basically. So you have to unlock the better tires,
Parts and
gearbox,
stuff.
yeah, chassis and all that jazz.
Mm.
So I've been working on one specific car, trying to get the best sort of specs, like I was saying, and
Right.
that's why I've been kind of hitting my head against a wall because I'm stuck on this mission, and I'm trying to get a gold in it to get this cool unlockable, and yeah, it's really difficult, really hard
Mm.
game, but yeah, I really do need to try the online because I think once you unlock all the specs, it helps you in online because your car is obviously better and you'll
Sure.
stand more of a chance. But
I'm also wondering, in terms of the online, whether there really are many people to play. Considering this is a
yeah,
third-party Wii U game, the number of people who are buying it is pretty low. Like, how many people are like really going to be concurrently online at any one time?
um, I have absolutely no idea, and the potential is that there's gonna be none, not
Right?
even barely
That's a bit
any,
scary, you
like
know.
none. But I mean, we'll see. I won't rule it out yet. I mean, well, it's not my choice. It's just
Yeah, the way
there's
that
either
it
gonna be
works.
people or there's not. But
Sure.
one thing that's different about the Wii U game that I should talk about is the what do you even call it? What do you call a rally driver the guy who sits next to a rally driver, the co-driver? I think you just call it a
Yeah.
co-driver.
Yeah,
So there's
something like
like
that.
co-driver mode, and
Co-op mode.
so say I'm holding a Wii Pro controller. I should mention I bought a Wii U Pro controller. It's great.
Hmm.
Um, but say you wanted to play it with me, MBZ, you could be the co-driver. So
Okay.
co-driver gets to hold the gamepad, and
Right.
then on the gamepad you can turn it. You can make it day or night.
Uh-huh.
You while I'm driving, make it day or night. You can turn the traffic on and off, which is quite handy.
Mm.
If you just want, it's really nice for if you just want to speed like crazy without worrying about crashing too much. You just turn the traffic off. You can also change the paint job,
Right.
um,
So this is
and
all happening dynamically. You just press a button and it happens, right?
this is all buttons on the touchscreen
Okay.
of the Wii U gamepad.
Hmm.
Um, and also, only the gamepad. This is a stupid thing that I wish wasn't included. Only the gamepad can change the it can go on the menu. So you can't access
Right.
the menu with the Pro controller. So you're changing controller to go to a menu. It's really
That
obtuse.
yeah, that seems like a bit of an oversight.
I
That's
really don't
sucks.
understand it, to be honest.
Uh,
I've not tried the game with just the Wii U pad only.
hmm.
I'm sure that would remedy the issue, but I don't really want to play it on the Wii U pad. That's why I bought the Pro controller.
Right.
So,
Right. Exactly. All right.
um, but yeah, that's my first impressions of this game. I'm going to be playing a whole lot more, and in months and months to come, I'm sure it's a nice kind of driving game that you can just dip in and out of, which is nice.
Yeah, exactly. That's the nice thing about those games is
Exactly.
they don't really have like a succinct story mode, as it were. It's
Oh no, not at all. It's just
so
tons of missions in your face. But yeah.
yeah, awesome.
And then the other game I've been playing is free and
Yay!
on 3DS. And who doesn't love free stuff?
No
So
one, no one.
no one.
No.
I didn't think you were a fan of this free stuff, but anyway.
Well,
Uh,
we'll see.
well, we're getting there. We're getting there. But so I played and enjoyed very much Steel Diver Sub Wars. Um, so yeah, like it says on the tin, download it for free. And I've done some of the single player missions and the tutorial, and it's really great fun. And then I did plenty of the online. Um, so I'm not describing this very well, but
It's quite hard to
yeah,
describe. I guess
it's
if you boil down to it, it's, as I said before, a submarine-based first-person shooter on 3DS.
exactly. And the great thing about that, first of all, there's a few little things that are unique about it. Well, I guess these aren't unique to FPSs, but you can only be spotted if you're moving. So you can just be rotating and shooting, what do you call missiles?
Yeah, I guess
Yeah,
missiles, homing
missiles at
missiles.
your enemies without moving, and you only reveal where you are once you start moving, because you're using sonar constantly to like check out where people are. You can also use the periscope, which is like just a manual thing that you can use to just see your opponent's.
Well, it's a scouting system essentially.
Yeah, it's like a scouting system exactly, and means you can look for people without revealing where you are because you're still.
Right.
The controls are really actually quite smooth and weren't quite as clunky as I thought they might be. So you're going up and down and you're going forwards and backwards and you're shooting, and that's about it. The great thing is that when you're playing online, you're in these teams. It's always 4 versus 4, no matter what, basically. And even if you sink all the other team bar one person, if that one person then kills all your team, you lose. So it's all, no matter whether you get sunk or sink plenty of others, it's all about last team standing basically, which is quite a nice mode. It's quite simple, easy to understand. It also means that when the teams feel quite unbalanced sometimes. That mode kind of balances it out because the better guys help out the weak guys, and it's not just
Right, and it will kind of come down to the two best guys on each team versus one another. Most of
exactly.
the time, anyway.
And this is honestly the kind of game where if you have enough skill, you can just kill everyone and you'll never get hit
Yeah.
because that is one downside of this game, I would say, is that when you feel under attack because you're a submarine and you move so slowly, at times you feel really vulnerable.
Oh yeah, it's because you're so slow and just
Yeah.
you're a massive target, and it is so
Yeah.
difficult to get out the way of that kind of thing.
Exactly. And likewise, shooting because you're unless you do the lock-on missiles, the regular missiles just shoot in a straight line. And because the subs are moving, albeit very slowly, but because they're moving, you really have to line up your straight line shots that take a good few seconds to kind of get to the subs. And you do get it does tell you when you do a long range shot, which is very satisfying. I pulled off a few of those. But I'm not quite loving it enough to want the downloadable content, I'd say. It's not kind of
To pay for the full version, right?
exactly to pay for the full version. I mean, you get loads more missions, loads more submarines, loads more unlockables and things, and you can have more fun in the online, I'm sure, as a result.
Sure.
But it's not really something
Yeah.
I want to sink a whole lot of more time into.
Dun dun.
So unintentional.
So witty.
Exactly.
I played a bit of this as well, a little bit with you. Not with you actually, because I don't think you can do friend multiplayer, can you? Just yet?
Not online. You can locally.
Yeah, you can locally, but not online. Yeah, I tried some of it. Didn't really hit me in the same way as it did you. I kind of decided.
Dude, you didn't even sync anyone.
No, I didn't. Look,
That's
I
the
did.
most satisfying bit of this game.
I went through the tutorial. I learned it all. I found out that fucking Morse code is hilarious and really hard to pull off. And whoever is able to send messages mid-battle has far too much time on their hands. But yeah, no, it's an interesting concept. It just didn't really hit me in the same way, and it's not really something I guess I'm going to go back to. But
It's something I will definitely go back to just to mess around with the online multiplayer, but only in the free version, like I
sure,
said.
sure.
So yeah, that's
Awesome.
what I've been playing.
Okay, great.
What have you been playing, MBZ?
I've been playing like too many games. This happens sometimes where I feel like there's something that I don't want to focus my attention on, so I pick up 12 things at once and try and juggle them all, and end up not making a huge amount of progress in any. But what I was really doing was clean up this week. Clean up in the sense of finishing things.
Spring cleaning?
No, not quite. In the sense of finish. Well, I guess it is. It's a fucking spring cleaning of my backlog, as it were.
Before the summer releases?
Right, exactly. And before all these things like Titanfall drop. So I have been finishing some games, 3 notably. First one is me finishing off Mario and Luigi Dream Team Brothers, which I talked about at the end of what I'd been playing last show. And I got to the final bosses, and so there's this thing where if you die on any boss really, or I think it's any enemy battle, any boss, you have an option to try again, but in easy mode. And there's really no penalty for trying in easy mode, aside from the fact that it's easier.
You feel disgraced.
And yeah, I guess you should feel shameful. But I'd gotten to a point where I'd been fucking 17 hours too long in this game, and I was just done with it. I was fucking sick to the teeth of playing more of this game. So
You were ready to shame yourself.
I died on the second final boss and decided, fuck it, I'm going easy mode. That's what I did. And I did it on the final boss as well, because I didn't care, and I just saw the end of the game, and that was that, and it was over. So I finished it. It's done. I'm closing the chapter on it. But, there's things I really liked about it. I just feel that it was so fatty. Really too much unnecessary stuff put in there and could have been trimmed. The point I was going to make about it actually last week I didn't get time to was there's a lot of this stuff where you kind of, in the dream world, it's based around a 2D plane as opposed to being like a 3D world. So there's all these platforming challenges that you go through in terms of like puzzling and that kind of stuff, but like, this game is an RPG. It doesn't have good platforming mechanics. So when they try and shove that stuff in, it really is really ham-fisted, and it doesn't work very well. And you have to try again a bunch, and it's just kind of silly. So I don't really appreciate that stuff, especially when they force you to do so much of it. It really, could have done with some cutting. But there you go. At least I finished it. The other thing I finished was Lego Lord of the Rings, which I talked about, I guess, a couple shows ago. Actually, the last time I talked about it, I was, I think, halfway through the Two Towers part of the game. I sat down at that point and kind of marathoned my way to the end. I only had about 2.5 hours left of the game at that point, and I finished the Two Towers segment, went all the way through Return of the King, and finished it off. And, as always, it kept up the funniness, kept up the parody, and was really great throughout. I really enjoyed it, and I'm glad to have played it. But as we were talking about, one Lego game is enough for me. We played the Star Wars one so long ago that I had been kind of out of my mind, and I hadn't, touched one in a long time. But now I'm done. I don't need another Lego game. The gameplay isn't varied enough for me to be interested in anything else. So that's that. I finished that off, and that is that's two things finished. And the third one, which I guess I'll talk the most about, is a game which I started and finished in the past couple of weeks. So I went home and I brought my Vita with me, and my Vita hasn't been getting a lot of love lately because I've been doing stuff on 3DS a lot and stuff on my PC. And the Vita's kind of been sitting in my drawer and very lonely. And I decided, I'm going to take it with me, take it home, and play some stuff, because I have a lot of stuff from PlayStation Plus. I have stuff that I got when I bought the system, one of those being Little Big Planet Vita. And I decided, you know what, Little Big Planet, it's going to be short, it's going to be quick and easy and fun and interesting and innovative, and that's exactly what it was. So I basically booted it up when I got home, played through the first couple of worlds, and then the next day I played through the last 3 worlds. There's 5 worlds total, and they all comprise of a short amount of levels, but they are very innovative in terms of using the Vita hardware and also throwing you new things every level. Like, it's a thing where a lot of people don't like Little Big Planet in terms of platforming, just because the jumping is kind of floaty. He doesn't really go where you want him to. Sackboy, that is, who's the main character. And it's an interesting premise they have, where you have 3 planes of existence. You have being right up close to the screen, moving back an inch to like a middle point, and then moving right to the back of the screen. So you have 3 kind of planes which you have to play on, and it's hard to see because you're looking at it from a 2D angle. So seeing him move back into the background and knowing which plane he's on is kind of tough sometimes. So you're going to mess up jumps if you're jumping from one plane to another, but it's in the foreground as opposed to the background. That can mess you up sometimes. But I really like that, they include a lot of touchscreen stuff that doesn't feel gimmicky, and is just fun to do. I really enjoyed the experience. They just throw all these crazy things. There's also a lot of unlockable mini games that reminded me a lot of WarioWare. So there's basically using the Vita like to play some 2-player co-op games like locally. Not co-op, like kind of multiplayer. Do you remember in WarioWare where there was that table tennis game where you held the DS, one person was on the R button, one person was on the L button, and it was like a table tennis game through...
There's games like that?
Yeah, there's games like that. So basically there's like a Robot Wars one, not Robot Wars, but those fighting robots which punch each other and you have to hit the head and it like boings up and that's when you win. So there's one of those. So basically one person holds one side of the Vita and controls a robot with one analog stick and then uses the shoulder button to punch, and the other person does the same on the other side. So you're moving this robot around the screen and trying to win a bout of like best of 5 or whatever it is. And it seemed really cool. I didn't really have anyone to play with it with, but I tried them on my own, just kind of controlling them both at once, just to see what they were like. Because there are a lot of these ones that I wanted to try out. There's also like air hockey they have. There's a lot of cool stuff, and I like...
Do you not play them with anyone?
No, well, I mean... My parents wouldn't be interested, and my sister wasn't home, so I didn't really have anyone who I could use as a test subject, as it were. But yeah, I was kind of like one-player co-oping it for lack of a better term. So
We'll try them out. We'll try them out.
yeah, definitely. No, they're really neat, and I always like it when games do those kind of things. They're just kind of thinking a bit outside the box, and I'm not sure if Media Molecule developed this game. I'm trying to think whether they did, because they did do Tearaway. I'm not sure if like Tearaway was the only game they were working on. I think it might have been a different company who did the first two games on PS3. But it has that sensibility about it. Like it really does have that boundless creativity. And although the platforming is simple, it's super satisfying, and I just get a huge amount out of it. Bali, I'm not sure how much you really have in terms of a perspective on Little Big Planet.
No, I've never touched it, and to be honest, the only real amount of gameplay I've seen is when you did your series, Little Big Pokemon.
Right, that series,
Yeah.
which is somehow the most viewed video on my channel, which is crazy.
Yeah.
I actually got a message from someone recently telling me to check out this new map that someone had designed, so I think I might do that when I go
That'd
back
be good.
home and record part 3 or whatever of that, and maybe that'll do well for me, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, no, I mean, here's the thing with Little Big Planet is the main single-player campaign isn't what most people go into it for. Most people are there for the...
It's all about the custom.
Right, everyone's there for the creating your own levels and customizing. And in terms of that, this is really a complete package because you have the camera built into the Vita. So you can take a picture of anything, turn it into a sticker. I was playing this a while ago, actually, when I actually started it quite a while ago and just didn't pick it up fully until now. But it was when my sister was back at home, and I just went into her bedroom. She's like lying in bed watching her iPad. I just took a picture of her face and then started plastering it all over. Because you can basically take these stickers and expand them to any size you want and just start plastering them on levels. So I just started plastering her face everywhere, and then I showed her, and she was like, "Oh, that's funny. My face is in a game." So yeah, it's really more of a tool for creativity and customization than it is a single-player game. It's similar to how Call of Duty operates, where there's a single-player campaign, but no one really cares about it. People are more interested in the other parts. But I got it free with my Vita when I bought it, so I was like, you know what? I enjoyed Little Big Planet 2. It was quick, it was fun. We were in and out in a matter of hours, and that's exactly what this was. So it was enjoyable, and yeah, it's not your standard platforming Mario, Donkey Kong style thing, but it's something different and something unique, and I appreciate it for what it is, despite a lot of people having misgivings about the controls and that kind of stuff. So there you have it. That is what I have been playing. A mix of stuff. There's some other stuff as well. I've dipped my toes back into Xenoblade. I've dumped another 7 hours there, but that's still scratching the surface, man. I'm going to be checking in with Xenoblade many times.
I think you'll complete it one day.
I think I will. I think I'm going to go...
Should try and do it before X.
That's totally my plan. My plan is to finish it before X. I think I am actually going to go heavy on it in the next couple of weeks, so I'll probably be talking about that next time, and see how much progress I've put into it. So, yeah, there we go. So that is going to be the end of what we've been playing, and I think that the next segment, we're just jump into some heavy listener mail, which has been building up the last month, I believe, because we haven't done it in that long. So yeah, we're gonna jump into those, and we shall return. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. And we are back from the music break here with a bunch of listener mail. Loads and loads of it to go through. In fact, so much that we are probably going to take 2 segments to go through it. Not sure if we'll get through it all, but we will do our best and try and do so. But before we go ahead and jump into it, I just want to address a few things up front here. We've been getting a lot of very long emails recently, which is great and all, but sometimes it tends to be emails that are stating a lot of opinions and not necessarily asking questions, and it means that in our responses we're not really able to spend as much time even answering as we are reading the question, so it really takes up a lot more time than it needs to and kind of wastes time on our end in terms of us wanting to answer questions. So we do like hearing opinion-based stuff, but I feel that if it's a bit too rambly or if it's not focused specifically on industry stuff and that kind of thing, then we're probably going to be taking a bit of a pair of scissors to it and trying to cut it up a bit, just to make our lives easier and to make the show a bit brisker, as it were, so that we don't get bogged down in Bally tripping over words trying to get through sentences.
Oh dear. And also, just to say that there are plenty of questions coming in that are perfect in length and they've got a real concise point to make, and they make that point really well and cleanly, so there's definitely people getting it right, is what we're saying.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, that kind of thing. The other thing I want to address is questions regarding Pokemon and questions regarding my YouTube channel and, my videos and that kind of thing. I really want to refrain from anything to do with my other YouTube videos on this podcast. This podcast is based on Nintendo and our opinions on them and the games industry. I don't want to be talking a lot about my personal YouTube account, especially because the show is now on iTunes, which means it's open to a wider audience. It's open to people who have no idea that I have a YouTube channel or anything that I do, and so questions relating to that seem a little out of place a lot of the time if we're addressing a new audience who has no context for that whatsoever. So if there's anything regarding that, I think we're just generally going to cut it out from here on. And the Pokemon questions we need to keep to a minimum as well. I know a lot of you guys are big Pokemon fans because that's what I do mainly on YouTube, but we can only have so much of it. We will address it sometimes, but if your question is completely Pokemon centric, then I don't feel that we need to fully address it, especially when there's lots of things that have been said about the topic before. So that's just my little spiel at the top here, just to let you guys know what's going on with the listener mail and all that stuff. With all that said, do still please feel free to send in your listener mail. We want to hear from you consistently, so keep writing us at the email address, which is Bally
NYPPQuestions@gmail.com.
Exactly. So that's that, and let's kick it off. So Bally, you have the first email. Why don't you go ahead and read that?
Yes, it is from Tom, and he says, "Hey Zed and Bally (brackets Zally), have you guys played Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate for the Wii U/3DS? I heard that it was good and would like your opinion on it. If you have played it, didn't you think that it was really weird that all the guys in the main village wore assless chaps with a loincloth underneath? I watched some LPs and none of the people playing mentioned it for some reason. If you haven't played it, disregard that last part. Don't let it discourage you from trying it. The game, I mean, not wearing assless chaps." Because I think it's a solid title that hasn't gotten much attention.
Well, I'm not a fan of assless chaps, I gotta say.
That was a great question, by the way.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if Tom has actually played Monster Hunter himself. He said he heard that it was good, so I'm guessing he wants some opinion to persuade him whether to buy it. And he seems to have watched some videos on it on YouTube, but I really don't have a huge amount of experience with Monster Hunter outside of the demo, which both of us actually played. Bally, did you play the Wii U or the 3DS demo?
I did the 3DS demo.
And what do you think of it?
It was just really tough, and obviously the game is tough, and that's not against the game. It's just that it's very clear from the demo that this is something you either get into or don't get into. It's not really something that it feels like you can play it for a little bit and be into it casually, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Oh, Monster Hunter is the definition of anti-casual,
exactly.
100%.
Anti-casual.
It really is.
Assless chaps are just so anti-casual.
They are. I mean, I also think I should say that the demo is straight up bad. It does not tell you anything. It
Yeah,
is
it really doesn't.
a really terrible display of what the game is, because it throws you in there. It's like, oh, here's 12 weapons. Choose one of them. I don't know what they do. Just go and try them. And you get sent off against some boss enemy that you have to take down. And you're like, you don't really understand the mechanics. You have no idea what's going on. They don't explain any of it to you clearly. And yeah, it's just a bad kind of introduction to the series. And I mean, so here's the thing: a lot of people say, a lot of people mention the fact that Monster Hunter is a game that you need to play with other people. It is a inherently multiplayer experience, and you need someone there by your side who knows what they're doing to be able to give you an in and, you know, tell you the tips and tricks and how things work and what mechanics do what and all this stuff, so that you start understanding and get into it. And you know, by all means, people who have got into it love it. They absolutely think it's a fantastic game, and I'm sure that that's the case. But there is this kind of 10-hour ceiling, this 10-hour barrier to entry, which you kind of have to slog through in order to understand everything and what's going on, which is something that doesn't appeal to me. It's the same issue I have with games like Dark Souls and that kind of stuff, where I'm just like, you know, I mean, I know everyone praises this game and loves it and says it's amazing, but it's just not something I want to put a time commitment to. I know that I don't really enjoy that kind of stuff on that level anyway, so yeah, I mean, it's something that isn't to my taste, but don't let that discourage you from playing it, especially when you have the resources of the internet and YouTube there at your disposal if you want to try and learn stuff. And, you know, if you have someone to play with, more the merrier, and the better it is.
Or you can get John Lindemann by your side.
Right?
That'd be really cool. But...
That's Lindy. He rolls with all the monster hunters. Yeah, interesting.
So next question's from Adam, and he says, "Let me start off by saying thank you for the wonderful podcast that both of you put on. I look forward to every time it pops up on my subs list." He's got a number of questions. Question number 1. I often keep my 3DS on me to get the pedometer steps and play coins in each day. I usually end up getting to the limit of the coins before I just sit there and spend them on the puzzle pieces. What are your opinions on using the coins in the 3DS games? Example, you can use them to get clues in Zelda. Where would you like to see them used in games, if at all?
Yeah, so the coin system is interesting. And I will admit that, yeah, the majority of my coins go straight to puzzle pieces. I don't bother really with them, even in the RPG. What's it called?
Puzzle? No.
Muzzle Quest. The RPG. You know what we're talking about. The thing.
Street Pass Quest.
Street Pass Quest. There you go.
I think that might even be a European name anyway.
That is the European name.
Okay.
The American name is Find Me, I believe.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so I don't even use it on that, honestly. You know, you can use it to buy potions. The only time I use it on that is when you come up against, like, a fiery room or a dark room where you have to have 2 of the same color people, which is the point at which I'll go and deliberately go into my backlog of people who I've street passed and just rebuy them, as it were, with play coins, so that I can just get rid of that, so that the next time I collect a bunch of people, they won't all just get turned away from the room because they can't do anything, because then it's a waste. And yeah, so yeah, most of mine go towards puzzle pieces. So the one exception I would say for me using the coins for an in-game purpose is Animal Crossing. And the reason I use them in Animal Crossing is because they bought in the game fortune cookies, and these fortune cookies would give you access to special Nintendo-themed items which you could put in your house, which were awesome and amazing, and things like the Triforce and, you know, the R-Wing and all that good stuff. And I just had to, like, I was down for collecting all of them. I really wanted them, so every time that there was a fortune cookie available, I had to make sure I had enough play coins to get those. And I really haven't seen much use of play coins in other 3DS games. Bally, have you come across any others that you can point out?
Well, the example he gave was Zelda, and I think only used it once, and it didn't even help.
Really?
Yeah, it was actually... This is a little spoilery if you haven't played the game, but it's the entrance to one of the dungeons where you think that you have to dive, but instead you just have to blow up the rock outside.
Right, yeah.
And I thought you had to dive, so I used one in there, and it's just like, oh, looks like the water's in the way here or something. It didn't help at all. but
That kind of sucks.
and then I realized later, oh, you meant to blow up this. But anyway, I think it'd be really cool if they implement it in more games. Like you, I pile all of mine into the puzzle pieces, and that's about it. Like I don't know how they could implement it into something like,
Yeah.
I don't know, a
I mean,
Mario
with
game.
Animal Crossing, it made sense because it was desirable items that were exclusively based on the coins. And yeah, I'm not sure how else they would put them or roll them into.
I mean, what if you got to a position where you had to save up coins to unlock special levels in certain games or something? Wouldn't that be
I
weird?
mean, that could be interesting, but then
The
it
thing
also
is, the thing
seems
about it though is that it's just unbelievably clever by Nintendo because it forces people to walk around with your 3DSs, and just in doing that, you're an advert to the 3DS because you're more inclined to sit on a train or something and pop it out your pocket to play on it, and everyone can see you playing on it, and just that in itself is an advert. So I thought the whole idea of Street Pass and the coins, with the pedometer, was just an incredibly clever idea.
Oh, it's one of the smartest things they've done in years. It is a really excellent part of the system, and it's not only intrinsically fun, but it helps you in many other ways. It's fantastic. So yeah, I'm always an advocate for Street Pass. So yeah, I mean, I can't really think of many more examples of that, but maybe we'll see what they do in the future. There's lots of 3DS games on the horizon, so maybe they will invent some new stuff. So there we go.
Okay, doke. Well, question number 2. Um, he says, I suppose this question is more aimed at Zed. I am a big Pokemon person. One peripheral that Pokemon Nintendo introduced a while back was the Pokewalker, as known as the Pokemon Pedometer. How would you feel about bringing that back as an app on the 3DS while using the internal pedometer? With the release of Bank and Transfer, are there any other kinds of peripheral Pokemon apps that you would like to see? I had imagined something like a daycare app that used real steps instead of in-game steps to level up Pokemon and utilizes Bank as a transfer media.
Now, this is a Pokemon-based question, but I thought it was a bit more interesting than your generic, what is your favorite Pokemon? So, like, this is kind of curious because I feel like Nintendo would be super fucking cynical about it and charge you for an individual app as opposed to even using the in-game pedometer. As ridiculous as that sounds, they know they can make money doing it. So I feel like maybe that is going to be something that they'll do, but I would certainly be interested in them doing it. It means that people are, more inclined to bring their 3DSs with them, than they even would before, especially people who just play Pokemon who maybe don't care too much about Street Pass. It encourages that crowd to start going around with their stuff as well. I also think, like, there wasn't really any interesting use of Street Pass in general in the Pokemon games for 3DS. So if they did a system where you basically put up a Pokemon for trade, and whenever you Street Pass someone, it would automatically trade the Pokemon you put up with someone else who'd automatically put something up. And then you got home and you're like, oh, I got a trade for this thing that this other person put up. I think that would be awesome. I don't really know why they didn't put it in the game, but yeah, that would be something I'd be interested in. What do you think about this, Bally? About the Poker Walker and bringing that back?
Uh, it wasn't really ever something that took to my fancy, I must admit. I
Well, you didn't get Heart Gold or Soul Silver.
No, I didn't.
I did, and I had the Poker Walker, and I do remember taking it out.
Was it good?
Well, it was interesting because it didn't really level up your Pokemon a huge amount. You could walk thousands and thousands of steps, and you'd get back, and it'd be like, rose by 3 levels, and you're like, really? Really? Okay, I mean, sure, but yeah, I think they kind of need to balance that a bit more than it was done before. But it was a neat little thing. I just think it's kind of more redundant. You know what I would like to see is them integrating. Actually, I'm not sure if they even did this. They might have done integrating the pedometer on 3DS to Wii Fit U. How you would basically go out with your 3DS, walk a bunch of steps.
They had a separate pedometer. In fact, apparently they used the same actual chunk of plastic for the Pokewalker and repainted lots of them and sold them as Wii Fit U walkers.
Yeah, I think that is what they did, isn't it?
And apparently, and it syncs with your Wii U. Yeah.
Right, yeah, and that,
Apparently, it works really well.
yeah, that makes sense, but
Was it you who was telling me that they did some test on these pedometers, and apparently the Nintendo one is like the most accurate pedometer, more so than like companies that invest tons into actual fitness pedometers and
yeah, I
things.
did hear about that somewhere, definitely.
Yeah, I heard it in some podcast, I think it must have been, but
Yeah,
weird.
it's strange, definitely. But I think that if they'd integrated the 3DS into that, that would have been cool because, getting that connectivity going, we want to get more of that.
Exactly.
I really want it, but
Gotta
yeah,
catch them all.
yeah. And he also asked like if there are any other peripheral Pokemon apps I'd like to see, with bank and transfer being released. I'd like something that would allow me to, make Pokemon for competitive and not have to fucking train my own shit. But
What if Twitch Plays Pokemon became an app?
oh my,
And
you're blowing my mind right now.
And you just like all you have to do is like log in through your Twitch Plays Pokemon app, and then you're in there. You're playing Twitch Plays Pokemon, isn't it? You're just there. Like
Oh
you don't have
God.
to be on a computer or anything. You're actually on your 3DS. Just
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen somehow. But no, yeah, that's something we haven't mentioned on the podcast. It's just a fucking crazy phenomenon. But yeah, indeed. Anyway, yeah, I think we
right.
pretty much covered that.
Uh, Question 3. As an older gamer and more hardcore Nintendo fan in respect to their retro things, sort of Super Nintendo and N64, what games would be good to get for the Wii U? Do either of you see a difference in visual quality in the retro games when you play them on the Wii/Wii U as opposed to the original system? I've been on the fence about buying it since it has come out and trying to determine if it's worth the money.
Interesting. It's interesting he brings up N64 because N64 games are still not even available on Wii U. So we can't really talk about how good they look. I guess we can talk about how good they look on Wii as opposed to the original games. You have a better perspective on that anyway because you own an N64. What do you think comparatively in terms of the emulation versus the original? Do you think it looks better?
I honestly think it looks the same, but I'm the sort of person who isn't that great at spotting up-resed gigapixels and
Bally's the
stuff
sort of person who can't tell the difference between 360p and 720. So asking him is a bit redundant.
They look fine to me, I'll be honest. Yes, absolutely. They look fine. Yeah.
I think they look significantly better, especially when it comes to Wii U. Talking about Super Metroid, that looks great. I think it looks really nice on the system, especially on the gamepad. I think the gamepad, in terms of Super Nintendo games, is great. I was playing some F-Zero on it the other day, and that just is super crisp. There's nothing, there's no kind of scan lines or any of that nonsense. It's just straight up looking great. I'm not sure if it's like up-resed to HD or whatever, but it seems pretty fantastic to me. So yeah, there is. I would say there's a significant difference in visual quality. I don't know in terms of how much better they play. I do feel like there's a bit of lag going on when it comes to Super Metroid. I'm not sure, like if that's a problem with the emulation, and that kind of thing, or what's going on with it. But it feels a little bit, not picking up my input so much. So yeah. I guess that's a little bit of a downside, but it does look great.
His question seems to be around the idea of retro games and whether to buy a Wii U rather than like actual new Wii U games. It feels like he means just retro ones. I don't know. It's unclear. But certainly in terms of are there enough retro games on Wii U to warrant buying it to get the retro games, as you were suggesting
Right.
the last console was maybe the N64. So I would say no, because they've really not released anything.
Yeah, in terms of the
Yeah.
output of Virtual Console games, it is piss poor. And I mean, what you can do is go into the Wii channel and buy stuff there, and that still looks great. I mean, I've been playing Xenoblade, as I said, on the Wii mode of my Wii U, and it looks better than it does running through a standard Wii, just because of the HDMI, input. It's up-raised a little bit, so it does look nicer. But as I said, it's not really worth it currently, if you're just hoping to play retro stuff on it. So yeah.
Okay. So, next question. Following on the topic of Wii U, what are your opinions on one-player games on the system? It's been my experience with the Wii U and the Wii have games that are really only enjoyable when playing with friends. I've enjoyed many a night of partaking in adult beverages, don't drink if you're underage, and playing Super Mario Bros. Wii with friends, but only to turn around and not enjoy it when I play alone. Maybe I am limited in experiences.
We have another question kind of addressing this later on, but yeah, there are limited number of good single-player experiences. I think both of us have played at least one solid one, yours being Pikmin, and mine...
I'd put 3D World as solid as well. I loved that single player.
Sure, but, I mean...
And I'm tempted, I would say I'm tempted to buy Wonderful 101 as well.
Right.
And Donkey Kong.
I would say, yeah, in my experience, though, there is like this very heavy focus on multiplayer in Wii U. Almost all of the tentpole releases have multiplayer modes or co-op options and that kind of thing. You know, even Donkey Kong, co-op. Mario 3D World has co-op. Pikmin 3 has, expansive multiplayer systems.
Mario Bros. U.
Mario Brothers U has co-op in it. Rayman Legends has co-op. Like, all these games... very good, but they do seem to have this interesting focus on multiplayer. And I mean, that is the strength of the system. That's certainly, you shouldn't play it down.
All local multiplayer as well.
Exactly, yeah, and this is the thing. It's all focused on the living room experience, the sofa next to one another, using the same screen, kind of thing. And that is a strength. I think, it is a good thing that there are such strong multiplayer experiences, but it's hurting it a lot in terms of people going out there and wanting to buy it, because there are a lot of gamers out there who use this hobby, as a solitary experience. They only play single player stuff, and when there seems to be such a focus on multiplayer, it's kind of, it's turning off in many ways. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
He does talk about, like, the Wii having a lot of, he was mentioning Super Mario Brothers Wii as a specific thing. I think that trend kind of did start with the Wii as well, especially with the launch with the Wii Sports and that, the collection of games, and then Wii Play came along as well, and there was, Mario Kart, very multiplayer centric, Smash Brothers as well. A lot of the huge games on Wii were going in that direction also. So it seems like something.
And then we've got Mario Kart U and Smash Brothers coming up this year. So
exactly.
Again, they're going to have probably relatively poor single-player experiences.
Sure. So it seems something Nintendo's been doing for a while since Wii, and something they're continuing. So yeah, I mean, we'll address it again later on, but yeah, it's interesting, most definitely.
Right.
All right.
Number 5. If you had to choose a system to play for the rest of your life, which one would it be? Keep in mind that you would have access to every game made for that system. Do you want to start, MBZ?
I could do my cheaty answer, or
we
I
don't
could
want your cheaty answer.
Well, my cheaty answer is 3DS, because I have access to the back catalog of DS and GBA and all that stuff. Everything I care about on GBA currently, anyway, in Ambassador.
Well, let's put in the hypothetical rule that it has to be for that specific system only.
Sure. That takes it a little bit more difficult for me.
Mine's easy.
Okay, you go ahead.
I would easily pick GameCube.
100%.
100%, because not only does it have Mario and Zelda, it's got my personal favourite Zelda, it's got Pikmin 1 and 2, it has F-Zero and Wave Race and Smash Brothers and a great Mario Kart and Double Dash, and just those games alone, I am completely content.
Yeah, no, it's a solid choice.
Completely.
Mine has to be a handheld. It's either GBA or 3DS. 3DS is shaping up to be such an incredible system. And, with the lineup of games I have for it, I could spend the rest of my life playing it. Fire Emblem is infinitely replayable. Pokemon is endless. Animal Crossing is endless. Like, these are like the ultimate versions of franchises which have been some of my favorite. across, so many years. So it is easy, and it also has my favorite Mario Kart. I think Mario Kart 7 is my favorite Mario Kart. So like there is a huge case to be made there. But then you juxtapose it to the GBA, which has potentially my favorite games of all time, with Metroid Fusion and with the original GBA Fire Emblems, which came over here, and Ruby and Sapphire, which are great games and really underappreciated. And there's so much good stuff on GBA. Like, it's tough, but I think, God, I think I will go. I think I'll go with 3DS. Because there is still the future of 3DS to come, and there may well be a new 2D Metroid on it, and I'm kind of investing in the future of that. So if I did have to play it for the rest of my life, it would mean that I would get access to the potential new games coming out on it, which I think will be many.
But not a 2D Metroid.
So, well, don't you fucking dare. We're
for the rest of your life, you're going to have no more 2D Metroid. That's what you've just subscribed to.
No, I'm all right. I'm okay.
You got hope.
I got hope. I got the hope. All right. Well, yeah. I guess I'll say that then.
Cool. So I'm GameCube and you're GBA. No,
3DS. 3DS.
But deep down you want GBA. But yeah.
The funny thing about that is the 3DS is basically a handheld GameCube, at least in terms of power.
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of the experiences are actually quite similar. No,
yeah,
right.
Definitely. So there you go.
Question 6. How do you feel about the sense of community Nintendo has created with the Miiverse and Street Pass? How would you see it changed? How would you see it grow?
Interesting.
And sorry, that's his last question. He says, again, thank you for all the work you put towards making this enjoyable podcast. Well,
thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Adam.
Indeed, we enjoy making it. So, Miiverse and Street Pass. What would you change about it, Bally? Do you think they're perfect and cannot be altered?
Well, we had some question about Miiverse before, and I just basically wish you could be less of a fanboy and more of a critic on the... I wish there was more debate.
I feel like that's asking for a little too much.
No, I don't know. It just, the community just feels like a bazillion fanboys all saying exactly the same thing, and I think that's a shame.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying. I just wish there was some way of changing that. You're right. That doesn't mean it becomes a debating forum. I just wish there was something more.
No, I get what you mean, and I understand your pain, because the Miiverse is a bit of a clusterfuck when it comes to that sort of, ignorance and stupidity from lots of people. As positive as it is, it's kind of dumbfounding when people are just completely, in love, as it were, with Nintendo. I mean, we were that way at one point, but we've, grown up and decided that we can look at them critically, which is a much more interesting take. But when you have a system like that, it doesn't really, it's not a platform that I feel would warrant it. And I don't think that you can really change people, because it's really the people who are at fault here, as opposed to the system. But I think that I guess there's sort of comes into play together. But yeah, no, I understand.
In terms of the community that Street Pass has created, it's incredibly weird in that it's basically an anonymous community, almost.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it's a neat feature that when you Street Pass more than once, you can actually send messages back and forth, like a baton, basically.
Yeah.
But, it's really weird. I wouldn't call it a community, or at least an anonymous one. It's cool though. I don't see how they can improve it, to be honest.
No.
It is what it is. They'd probably do something completely different rather than improve it, I think.
Oh, definitely. Most certainly. I think Street Pass is interesting. I don't think it's really, as you said, it's not really a community. It's just, it's 3DS anonymous, as it were.
And literally, Street Pass is the kind of thing that is probably the hardest thing that you could possibly try to explain to someone who's like over the age of 80 or something. Like I think that Street Pass, to get your mind around what it's actually doing, is so... even I struggle to describe it to some of my friends who wonder why the hell I'm carrying my 3DS wherever I go. They're kind of like, why why are you doing that? Like, are you
It's
crazy?
like, well, I want to get virtual coins so I can get virtual
and
puzzle
then they just
pieces.
look at you like,
Are you
okay.
crazy?
Are you high? But anyway,
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
well, that's half an hour of questions, so I think we're going to give it a break there. But we're going to come back after this musical break and answer some more.
Most definitely. So be sure to stay tuned.
Hello and welcome back to part 3 of Now You're Playing with Power, a Nintendo podcast. I think we're just going to get into some more of your listener mail. So we have another question from Meowth900, and she lists a few opinions. She said some negative things about Street Pass. More positive things about Pokemon Bank. Mentioned that there's a real lack of Wii U games. And then she mentioned how much she was enjoying Bravely Default and was wondering, NBZ, why haven't you played it?
So Bravely Default is interesting because I do have an interest in it, but more of a passing one than a I want to go out and play that. I really enjoy. I watched the Giant Bomb Quick Look. I think you did as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it looked really cool. It looks interesting, but it is a very traditional kind of turn-based Final Fantasy affair, and I mean, I tried to play Final Fantasy IV, and I wasn't really a big fan of it. I didn't really like the mechanics. I know these are a bit more modernized, but it's not something that I'm super into, especially when I've been hearing a lot of bad things about how the game really hits a wall when you get to like chapter 5 or whatever it is, and you have to just start grinding and grinding and grinding, and like it's horrible, and I don't want to do that. Like I don't want to get into an RPG and start enjoying it and then hit that wall and be like, oh fuck it, because when I play an RPG I want to see it to the end. It's very story driven and story based and that kind of stuff, and I generally like to push through, but when it comes to stuff like that, it's just like it's just a dampener on everything, to be perfectly honest. It also comes down to the fact that I have limited time to play games, and I already have a massive RPG that I'm still playing, which is Xenoblade, and I want to invest time into that as opposed to a new one, because if I keep starting new giant RPGs all the time, I'm just never gonna finish anything at all. So I have to really concentrate on one thing at once, and that's what I'm trying to do now with Xenoblade, and we'll see how that goes. But it's certainly something that I'll keep in mind, and I'll wait until the price drops a bit more, and maybe sometime next year I'll pick it up. Who knows? It's certainly something I have an interest in, but not enough to go out and just snap it up straight away. So that is my opinion.
Okay.
And Bali doesn't care about JRPGs because they are too long and he doesn't have enough time. So
I'd rather play 3 little games than 1 big game, basically. Yes.
Yeah, fair enough.
And then Meowth900 goes on to ask, what TV shows do we watch that take up all of our time?
Wow. Well, this is probably gonna be a long list, but currently I watch a lot of shows, a lot of really good shows. And there's the stuff like Doctor Who, which I love. A lot of people are kind of mixed on it. I know Bali has a fucking problem with time travel because he's stupid and doesn't like things which are fun.
There must be someone out there on my side who just... It's just when plots make fun of time travel and they just go crazy with it in terms of, oh, well, you couldn't figure out I was over here because I time warped from this era to here.
Nonsense.
Now I'm an old man and now...
Nonsense. It's amazing.
It doesn't. It's...
Oh God.
Yeah, just I can't even. Just keep going.
All right. Well, yeah. I love time travel. I love stuff like that. So Doctor Who's on my list. Sherlock, of course. BBC Sherlock is a fantastic show. So awesome, and the latest season of that was really good. I enjoyed that a huge amount. Obviously, Breaking Bad, which ended recently, was a show that I watched religiously. It's unfortunate that it's come to an end, but I think it was really a fitting conclusion. And so many TV shows go on for so much longer than they need to. Like Lost and that kind of stuff, which is 10 seasons of nonsense and continually never ending. There's stuff like that, but Breaking Bad ended perfectly. It was just absolutely amazing. Obviously, Game of Thrones is a big one. I know Bally is watching Game of Thrones as well. And
When does that come out?
I think it starts April 6th, so
April.
we're about a month away. Yeah, we're less than a month away from season 4 of Game of Thrones.
Can I watch it on my Sky thing on my laptop?
You probably can. I think they are putting on Sky whatever
Atlantic.
Yeah, Sky Atlantic. Yeah, you will be able to, most definitely.
Sick.
So excellent. That's gonna be great. I'm really hyped for Game of Thrones. Let me think. So I've been recently really gotten into House of Cards. House of Cards is it has that same kind of addictive quality to it as something like Breaking Bad and Game of Thrones, where you just want to consume. It's one of those shows which is really made for consumption at a large rate because it's released on Netflix, and Netflix's model of doing things is, oh, by the way, here are all the episodes, go watch all of them. There was some crazy statistic, I think, about how like 1% of Netflix subscribers finished the entirety of House of Cards Season 2 in the opening weekend when it was made available, which is crazy. I know 1% doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're talking about an audience that big and a series which is 13 episodes, 13 hours over a single weekend that people literally just sat there and marathoned, it's crazy. People are really into that show, and I'm so into it as well. I really, really enjoyed it, and I finished the second series in the space of like a week, so super, super down with that. Homeland was really good for the first 2 seasons. I think the third season was kind of average. I wasn't as into it, but the first 2 seasons of Homeland, the second season of Homeland has one of my favorite episodes of TV ever. It's an amazing episode. So I recommend that. And Bally has Homeland, which I gave to him a while ago. And
I'll watch it. I will watch it.
I think that's something that you would enjoy. So
I should. And it's nice having the DVD set, so I can just go.
Exactly, because Bally is a technophobe and doesn't know how to torrent anything. So yeah,
I really don't watch a lot of TV shows, actually, do I? It's because I'm actually studying to become a TV journalist, so it's very ironic I don't watch a lot of TV shows. So I watch a lot of like politics programs and the news, and I'm a massive sports fan, so I watch an absolute ton of Chelsea Football Club playing their games on the televisions. Mm-hmm. So because I dedicate a lot of time to that and video games and board games and my course, can't forget about my course. Yeah. The only one I'm going to really be watching in the next few weeks will be Game of Thrones. And I'm sure you'll hear both of us ranting and raving about that.
We should totally do a Game of Thrones segment on the show.
Oh, yeah.
If you would like to hear us do a Game of Thrones segment, yeah, definitely let us know, because that's something I'm totally down to do. I'm always interested in talking about TV shows.
Or a board game segment.
Yeah, sure, because I know everything about board games.
Anyway.
But yeah, no, those are TV shows we're into. So that's that, I guess.
Cool.
Awesome.
Well, we'll move on, I guess. And we have a question from Saint. Hey again, first off, sorry to Bally for spelling his name wrong last time. That's alright. Finally started Link Between Worlds, and I can see why you guys spoke so highly of it. It's freaking awesome. I've got half of the sages now, and I love it. While I was browsing the interwebs, I came across a picture saying if Nintendo made Super Mario Galaxy 3 or Sunshine 2, they would basically print money. What do you guys think about this, and would you play them if they came out? I was wondering if Bally has a YouTube account and would consider doing LPs or plays Pokemon competitively. Well, first of all, I'm glad you like Link Between Worlds.
Right.
I'm glad are
Enthusiasm.
enthusiasm. I was going to say are speaking highly of it.
Yeah.
Is good. But yeah. But anyway, what do you think about Mario Galaxy 3 or Sunshine 2, MBZ?
So the statement about them printing money is just a bunch of bullshit, I have to say. Statistically, historically speaking, the Galaxy games, Sunshine, have not sold super well. Especially when you're comparing them to the 2D entries in the series. They do okay. They do well for themselves, certainly. They sell a good number of copies, but they aren't printing money for Nintendo in the same way that something like an Animal Crossing or a Pokemon is, They are loved by a particular fan base, and they are critically acclaimed, but unfortunately they just don't sell super, super duper well. So, in that case, yeah, that's not really going to happen if they did do that. In terms of Galaxy 3 or Sunshine 2, I would much rather a Sunshine 2 than I would a Galaxy 3, mainly because I've had enough of my fill of the Galaxy style of gameplay, and I think it would just be interesting if they went back to Sunshine and kind of revitalized it and modernized it a bit and did some more interesting things with it and changed stuff up and maybe added some extra, stuff to the jetpack or whatever you call it, the flood, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of stuff. And especially seeing as 3D World, it did a lot of stuff that Galaxy did as well. So I am kind of burned on that series to a degree. So I would definitely be more disappointed if they announced Galaxy 3 as opposed to a sequel to Sunshine. And the interesting thing about, Luigi's Mansion getting a sequel on 3DS, I'm thinking that Sunshine 2 could be a 3DS game as well. But, with the state of Wii U, it probably wouldn't make sense to do that, right? Probably be a better idea to put it on that system.
I love Sunshine. I must admit I've not completed it, and that's something that needs to get done in my backlog. But the idea of Flood and what he brought to the game was fantastic, and I'd love to see, because the jumping mechanics and things like that are quite similar between 3D World and Galaxy. It'd be really nice if Sunshine, or something like Sunshine, where Mario was given something more than just his ability to jump, would be really nice for the next game. Whether that's Sunshine 2, whether that's on 3DS or Wii U, I really don't mind. I just want him to do something more than just jumping in the next 3D Mario.
Yeah, they need, as cool as it is to be like, oh, Galaxy 3, Sunshine 2, we're in an industry where sequelitis is just rampant, and
especially in Nintendo.
Oh, it's everywhere, man, everywhere. There's fucking there's
Call of Duty.
Right, there's Assassin's Creed 4, which is the 7th Assassin's Creed game because they didn't count a couple of them. It's ridiculous. The amount of sequels, the sequelization, everything of, not only our industry, but also, the movie industry and everything like that.
PlayStation 4.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of a different case, but yeah,
Xbox One.
The habit of putting numbers after things is just, it's something that I'm not really super appreciative of, and I do like the idea of new IP and new ideas. Mario doesn't change its IP because it just does different things within itself. Nintendo could have easily made Galaxy and Sunshine brand new characters, brand new universes, but they decided to stick with a familiar face and innovate in terms of the gameplay and the design, and that's fine. I think that's perfectly okay, and I have no trouble with that, but I would like them to take Mario to do something else, something different, and as cool as those games would be, I would much prefer originality. So,
I mean, three of my favorite. We mentioned this. I mentioned this earlier in the podcast that my favorite console was GameCube. And if you look at my three probably top games on GameCube, which are Wind Waker, Double Dash, and Sunshine, all three of those games did really radical things to those franchises. And while yes, it's Zelda, yes, it's Mario, and yes, it's Mario Kart, all three of them did unbelievably unique things, whether that's graphics, sticking a guy on the back of your cart, or even sticking a friggin' jetpack on Mario. That is what Nintendo need to do with the Mario franchise at this point in time, because while 3D World was fantastic, it was predictable.
Oh, definitely. Most
And
definitely.
we've said
And
that before.
yeah, we have mentioned that, Nintendo are in a place where they don't take enough risks and they should take more. And yeah, that's what we feel on that subject. So
And then the second part of the email, sorry, from Saint was a bit about me and my YouTube account. I do have a YouTube account. It's Ballyman91. If you want to subscribe. The only
For
downside
nothing.
is that I don't really upload any videos ever. But if you want to see what I've been liking and favoriting, you can, I guess. I have said in the past that MBZ and I have considered doing LPs of something perhaps cooperatively online if possible. Probably on the Wii U, but that might be something in the future. But it's hard to say, I guess.
yeah, definitely. And Bali did used to play Pokemon competitively. I think we mentioned that before.
Yes, this has been mentioned before as well.
And
Yes.
Bali did have a channel where he uploaded competitive Pokemon videos narrated, but
Yes, very for just a few months really.
yeah,
But it was good. It was good fun. I don't think I'll get back into it, I'm afraid.
Sure.
Before everyone is hoping. I guess
Yeah.
next question.
yeah. Thanks for the question, Saint. Let's move
Yeah,
on.
thanks. That was a good one. So this is from Fepiera. Hey Bally and MBZ, I'm a Brazilian fan of your podcast. I would like to comment on how the current Pokemon generation was able to rescue old Pokemon players such as me, hadn't played since Silver, back into the franchise. Why do you think this happened, and do you think Game Freak and Nintendo will try to keep these old fans loyal through the next years? How can they do that? There's some more questions, but I think we should address that one
Sure.
first.
So this is more in terms of, talking about just the base game itself and what they did to it to entice people back. I honestly don't think that 6th gen was that huge in terms of making people come back to the franchise. I feel like 4th gen was pretty big, and to a degree 5th as well. But I think it's much more to do with nostalgia and people getting to that age where they have moments of nostalgia, right? People who played Pokemon when they were, 10, 11, 12 and moved on and, did other stuff and played other games. They hit their 20s, their early 20s, and they're like, oh, God, I loved Pokemon back in the day. I'm going to go out and pick up the new Pokemon game and see what it's like. And I feel that is something that's much more relevant than them changing the game. Because to be honest,
Yeah.
the base game doesn't change a huge amount. If you haven't played it for, the last 10 years, then sure, there's a massive difference. But within each iteration, there isn't enough change to really see, a difference in any significant way. I'm not sure, what else can be said on that side, yeah? Bali?
I think in terms of reintroduce, I obviously don't know enough about this, but in terms of reintroducing people back into something they loved before, the idea of the mega evolutions for especially the starting trio from Gen 1 was quite a nice little touch, and I'm sure there were a number of people in their sort of our age, early 20s, who might have picked up who own a 3DS who might have picked up X and Y because, hey, look, Bulbasaur now fully evolves Venusaur into Mega Venusaur and Mega Blastoise and Mega Charizard and all this. So there might have been something there.
Oh, yeah, actually, that's a good point. I think there's a huge play on nostalgia in the 6th gen games, particularly calling back to Red and Blue, because there are so many Pokemon in the early game and throughout the adventure that you find who are from the original 150. So I think they are kind of trying to pull back old fans who were, back in the day enjoying it because of, all this stuff that they're bringing in. So, yeah, that makes sense. It certainly does.
So the next part is also MBZ. What do you think the next Pokemon games will be? A Ruby Sapphire remake? A Pokemon Z? Completely new games?
Right.
You'd love a Pokemon Z, wouldn't you?
Well, it would
You'd
suit
love
me perfectly, right? I said that we weren't answering Pokemon questions, but there are a few here that are somewhat relevant. And also, these people have already sent these in, so I can't really blame them because I didn't make it clear beforehand. So I guess we'll just address this. I think that they will release the third entry before they do a remake of Ruby and Sapphire. I think Ruby and Sapphire remake are definitely coming, but I think the third entry will be on its way before that. I don't think they're going to pull a Black and White 2, like I don't think it's going to be XY2 or XY or XX, or fucking genetics
Pokemon
with,
Triple X.
right? I don't think that that's going to be the case. Especially because the third legendary the third legendary is called Zygarde, which begins with a Z and it's in the shape of a Z, and they're setting themselves up.
Really?
So if they set themselves up and don't make it Z, then well, I am going to eat my hat. So you can hand it to me there. Awesome. All right.
You don't have a hat. That's cheating.
Shush! I wear many hats.
You'll eat your hair.
I'll eat my hair. Next question.
Okay. This is still with Fepiera. Bally, which would you say are the top 3 selling points of the Wii U for me? I'm a very casual player and a really big fan of older Nintendo games. I still have a Super Nintendo and N64, completely functional, just like our other listener. Also,
Yeah.
do you think Link Between Worlds is the best 2D Zelda ever? Okay, well, I bundled those together, but he says, sorry for any bad English. Thank you for all the great content. So I guess we can tackle both of those.
Yeah.
Well, selling points of the Wii U for you, I would say, if you're
As a casual player.
A casual player, I'd say Pikmin's a pretty casual game. Like,
Really?
I don't think it's that complicated.
I'm not sure on that.
I think 3D World's a better casual game than Pikmin.
I
I'd
think
say that.
the best casual game is Super Mario Brothers U.
Really?
I think that is much more. It's much more akin to the games he's talking about, like classic Super
But
Nintendo.
it's so much. That's true. Although I would say that it's not tougher than 3D World, but it's trickier. I think 3D World is an easier game than Mario Bros. U.
Right, but I think you're coming from the perspective of someone who is versed in 3D platforming. And there are lots of people who try 3D platformers who have no experience with the genre and cannot get anywhere with them, right? I think that Mario U is nice for its simplicity because it's go left, go right, and jump, and it doesn't really get too much more complicated than that. Sure, the difficulty of the levels increases, but the base mechanics are simple enough to the point at which you can have a good time. And they also offer things like the Golden Tanuki suit and that kind of thing, which help more casual players to get through the game. So I think it is definitely something that's more applicable here, maybe for this person. But yeah, that's what I think.
Other selling points of the Wii U. Wait till Mario Kart.
Sure.
I think that'd be a great game to just jump in and pick up. And I'm sure there'll be tons of bundles and stuff coming.
Yeah, there will be.
Shall we move on to? Do you think Link Between Worlds is the best 2D Zelda ever?
Yes. I think that's a simple answer.
Yes, but I've not played a whole lot of 2D Zeldas.
Right, we kind of have, there's blank spots.
But I really don't think they'll beat it, to be honest.
No. I think that this is kind of the ultimate, and so many people are praising it, and we're certainly not alone.
Like, I completed this game in 2 weeks. I never complete any game, let alone Zelda, in 2 weeks. And
yeah,
that honestly does say a lot. That this is just a really, 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 really great Zelda. So
that's a lot of reallys.
That was quite a few, but we've obviously talked a lot on the podcast so far about.
Yeah, how great it is.
Between Worlds.
Yeah, so if you want to, I think it was episode 2 where we did just like 2 segments on it, so go back and listen to that.
Yeah,
and
now that we're on iTunes.
Indeed. All right, so yeah, thanks for the question. Let's get on to the next one.
So this one is from Kevin Sharma, and this is quite long, but I'm going to take a deep breath and get into this. So, first off, to NBZ and Bally, just wanted to say this is the only podcast I've ever listened to, but I've gotten really drawn into it and I quite enjoy listening to your opinions on everything Nintendo. Anyway, my question is more of a different take on why the Wii U might not be selling as well as it could to the hardcore audience. Prefacing this, I feel that Nintendo has always been the absolute king of multiplayer. Starting with the N64, there's always been a fantastic Mario Party, Smash Brothers, Mario Kart, and starting with the Wii, we got a really cool launch game that demonstrates the potential of the system with Wii Sports and now Nintendo Land. I don't have a Wii U, but my cousin got one at launch, and just like with the Wii and Wii Sports, we spent the first 6 months just playing Nintendo Land and having an absolute blast, particularly playing Luigi's Mansion and Mario Chase with 3 people. Anyway, the reason I've brought this all up is because I feel the Wii U has a library that presently consists as a majority of must-have multiplayer games, but not too many must-have single-player games yet in comparison. As an example, even without having a Wii U myself, I fully experienced Nintendo Land, Mario Bros. U, Luigi U co-op, and Mario 3D World co-op. The quality single-player games I of course didn't have a chance to play, which were Pikmin 3 and Wonderful 101. In the future, it seems the majority of announced major Wii U exclusives follow in the same multiplayer pattern with the new Donkey Kong game, Mario Kart 8, and Super Smash Bros. Wii U. As a result, I feel the incentive to go out and purchase a Wii U for me is a lot lower since I can fully experience a lot of the best Wii U games with a friend through both campaign and multiplayer, and feel a lot of people might be in this boat. It's kind of a double-edged sword because it's great that Nintendo is keeping with this trend of amazing multiplayer gaming. It also hurts them in this way. I feel that releasing some AAA single-player only games as Wii U exclusives would really help remedy the situation, such as Legend of Zelda game, a Metroid game, a Star Fox or Kirby game, or even a new IP along with some more third-party games like Bayonetta 2. Anyway, I do hope the Wii U starts selling better because honestly it really deserves to. It is incredibly solid experiences you can only get with a Nintendo platform, and once any of those examples that I listed are out, I'll be sure to go out and buy one. Anyway, just wanted to get your thoughts on this. Keep on being awesome, guys. Oof. Well, thanks for the awesome email, Kevin.
Yeah,
That's a lot to talk about.
it is indeed. And yeah, we kind of said that this was going to come up earlier. It's a very interesting perspective to be in the position where you know someone who owns a Wii U and you have generally experienced most of what there is to experience on the system. Now, I don't know how relevant this will be to many other people. I'm sure that there are others in such a situation. But I'm not sure like how widespread it really is. I think generally the problems Wii U have are outside of this sphere, but it makes a lot of sense, you know? If you know someone who has a Wii U and you're going over there and you're playing these games, you're not thinking to yourself, I need to have one of these at home, because unless you have, lots of, siblings to play with or that kind of thing, you aren't going to get the same experience you're having at your friend's house as you are buying the system for yourself, right? So it's a problem in that way. Yeah, Bally, what do you think here?
I agree that there's definitely the examples you've suggested prove that the multiplayer experiences are outweighing the single player ones quite clearly.
And yeah, it does look set to continue because Donkey Kong, Mario Kart, and Smash Brothers are all multiplayer games. Of course, Donkey Kong is the sort of game which it's a really difficult platformer, and playing it in multiplayer, unless you have someone who knows what they're doing, could be super frustrating and annoying. But exactly, the other tentpole releases are flat out multiplayer.
And I'm sure he's right that when Zelda comes out, for example, on Wii U, it's going to change quite a lot. And Kevin is exactly the kind of guy who's going to pick the Wii U up when Zelda comes out, for example, or something like that, as he suggested. So I'm sure there are people out there who aren't massively into maybe the Marios or the Pikmins who are waiting for that killer Nintendo title like Mario Kart, Smash Brothers, or especially Zelda.
Yeah, Smash Brothers is an interesting one as well, because I feel like they're cannibalizing their own sales by releasing a version on 3DS as well as Wii U to some extent.
Hey, I'm getting both.
I mean, both of us are going to get both, right? But
I'm quite pleased that they're so far they're doing enough in terms of different stages, different trophies. And for people who are big Nintendo fans who own both a Wii U and a 3DS, who ultimately this game is probably targeted at, I think they're playing it right. I don't think that they're going to eat their own tail too much.
I just feel like I know a lot of people, through YouTube who have 3DSs but don't have Wii Us. And when Smash Brothers comes out, they already own a system that can play a version of that game. And I know the majority of them won't go and buy a Wii U for Smash Brothers. They will just stick with their system and get the 3DS version and be content with it. And that's the wider audience. That's the people who aren't super hardcore on Nintendo and won't buy every single thing they put out and won't be super, super into Smash Brothers, but they have heard of it, they have enjoyed playing it with their friends, and if they want a version of it, hey, they already own a system which can play it. So
I think there's something up Nintendo's sleeve, though. I think there's some sort of killer app that will be announced before the game comes out that does. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to do something to make Nintendo fans buy both. Some sort of link up or some sort of thing.
Sure.
You don't think?
I mean, I'm hoping there's some sort of connectivity going on, but I'm not, pinning my hat on it and saying, this is going to happen because, it's just they have struggled so much in the past to try and do things like this and ultimately failed with them. So I don't know.
What link up play?
Yeah, they keep promising it with, the DS and Wii. It was promised to have so much good stuff, and they never really followed through. And there currently isn't a lot, in terms of linking your 3DS to your Wii U. There's only the Nintendo Network account, which only just got sorted out, and that's not even fully functional.
It's crazy because it feels like they did more way back with the GameCube when you needed a cable. For example,
Right.
we had a great time playing Wind Waker on GameCube, connecting my Game Boy Advance, and you could do tons of or Four Swords, for example. And then the second that the technology's there with the DS and the Wii, there were hardly any games that utilized the connectivity. Like I think.
Yeah, it was
Pokemon,
almost like they were
thing.
building themselves up to use all this, and then they were kind of like, yeah, nah, not feeling it today, and they just didn't.
Yeah. I mean that age-old argument. Oh, you're going to be able to use your 3DS as the controller for the.
Right.
It's like,
No,
I think Nintendo see that as below them almost. They're like,
Yeah.
no, we have to come up with something better than that. Like,
Sure.
it's going to be. Killer.
But certainly, he makes the point of, solid single player IP coming along. Metroid and Zelda, those are games which will sell to the kind of audience he's talking about that he is a part of, right? And
Exactly.
it'll push those people over the edge. Whether it really sells systems for the others is a different matter. I certainly think that despite the fact that Mario Kart 8 and Smash Brothers are the multiplayer experiences that he seems to enjoy going over to his cousin's place and playing, those are games that are still pretty big system sellers on their own terms.
I think it's going to be incredibly interesting how especially Mario Kart affects system sales come the end of May, because Mario Kart Wii sold an unbelievable amount.
Yeah, it's dumb. It is seriously dumb.
And I don't know whether that was because it was on Wii or whether it was the marketing with the wheel or both, but wow, they just nailed it with that.
Definitely.
And even if the Wii U version did a fraction of that, that'd be incredible for sales of the Wii U, which is obviously dwindling as we've talked about so much.
Yeah. But yeah, that's an excellent question and some really good insight there. So thank you very much. And I feel like that is going to be us out of time.
Yes, I think that is us out of time, I'm afraid. Yeah.
Unfortunately, we didn't get to all the listener questions. We have 2 more still in the inbox, but 2
more.
emails. Three. Well, still, we're not going to be able to, put up a whole segment with just those next time. So be sure to send some more of your listener mail to us at the email address, which is Bally.
NYPPQuestions at gmail.com.
And we look forward to receiving a plethora of those from you guys. So, with that in mind and everything else said, I'm glad we're here on iTunes finally, as long as that is the case right now. I'm kind of setting myself up to
Yeah,
fail right here, because currently
We're on
iTunes...
iTunes, woo! It's like, well, actually. But yeah.
Well, I hope so. If nothing else,
crossed.
we have an RSS feed already set up, and I'll link that in the description as well. If you use a different
Half the battle.
If you use a different podcasting app as opposed to iTunes, then you can link to the RSS feed, and it will give you all of our episodes as soon as they go up as well. Yes, but that's that. Let's finish off the show, plug ourselves, and get the hell out of here. So, Bally, where can people find you on the internet?
Find me on Twitter at Ballyman91, BALLYMAN91. Oh, and Miiverse.
Oh yeah, that too. At the same name. I am at Lordnbz on Twitter. You can follow me on the Miiverse, Lordnbz there as well. And
Rate us on iTunes, hopefully.
Yes. Oh God. I should actually make this point right now. If we're on iTunes by the time this episode goes up, which I hopefully will be, leaving a review. Rating us 5 stars or whatever you want to rate us. I'm not forcing you to rate us 5 stars, but let me just tell you, it'll help us get up there in the rankings.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Yeah, that really helps. That's a huge, huge help. It means that other people get exposure because it goes up the lists and more people will be able to see it, which means that we'll get more listeners, which means more, listener mail coming in and more interaction and all that good stuff.
Better content.
Yes, exactly. Higher quality stuff. So I hope you guys will do that. Please do leave us a review or a rating at the very least on iTunes, and we would be super appreciative. Super, super appreciative. But that's going to be us for this week. So thank you once again for listening, and we shall be back in the future in 2 weeks' time with another Now You're Playing with Power. So until then, goodbye.
See you next time.
Dun, 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 dun,
Ba-da,
dun.
I should be like swanking around with a very fancy drink in my hand and
Why?
in like a 50s bar, just like This is the first brick I've ever introduced.
Alright, well, it's the first time for everything.
I'm gonna cock up.
I know.
Okay, right, you ready?
Yep.
Welcome back to part 3, I think this is, of NYPP. That was shit. Sorry. NYPP. Welcome back to NYPP. Oh, God.